Yeah, it's a tough balance. We're looking for someone that has, global aspiration to create $1 billion business out of nothing, but we also don't want narcissists. So it's, red flag for us if we see the word I and me, multiple times in the first approach. If they're in a meeting and they've got 2 or 3 colleagues there, but there's just one person speaking, there's some immediate red flags around that.
One common one that definitely comes up is if a founder isn't full-time in a business and they're obviously trying to raise a round. I think that's definitely a red flag from an investor perspective. As investors, we want to know that you as a founder are fully invested and committed to this venture, ideally for the long term. So that could be 8 to 10 years, probably even more longer than that. I think the second one as well is, it's not a big factor, but definitely is down the track, is if you have initially an outsourced development team that you're building tech outside or don't have internal developers, that could be a factor that you should consider in-house in that technology development in the long term as you sort of scale up and also as you raise around to sort of hire those key important people and keep the IP within the company.
I think for us, first and foremost, is that in the investment process is really about building trust between the funder and the founder. And so as an investor, I think it's really important to have very honest conversations with founders I'm engaging with, be very upfront. And I think it's always important to engage really respectfully.
It's not necessarily a red flag, but again, is maybe a bit of that sort of lack of understanding of the match between the business models is really like, for venture to work, like we have to have that, sort of home run type mentality piece of where, particularly early stage, we're fine to lose, all of our money on 20 out of 25 investments. That's totally okay. And so that means that, we can't invest in a lot of stuff that might have an incredible impact and be very great for society or, do all of these wonderful things, but ultimately is much more of a more traditional sort of linear scaling small business. And so really I think a lot of it for us is much more that piece of just trying to understand as much as you can how you fit into the business model and then sort of tailoring the pitch around that.